Hello and welcome to another edition of Forkful of Noodles. I am Krish Mohan. Protests. The fight for what you believe in and all that is unjust. People have been protesting for centuries. As kids, we protest homework, broccoli, and early bedtimes. We protested against those heretics Galileo, Darwin, and the Kool-Aid Man. Not only because of the property damage, but also because he was starting some very dangerous cults. Hell, the Revolutionary War was a form of protest. A protest involving ruining tea for the Brits, sparking a war, and not having the same lame fashion sense as those damn redcoats. Damn your coats that were the color of the skin of Satan. Protesting has a bad connotation in today's society. It's just seen as angry children yelling and screaming and spreading chaos through the land, starting another revolutionary war that we can't afford. The establishment looks at protesters and says, ugh, can you people just take a nap, please? We have important work to do. And all this yelling is making this billionaire put away his checkbook. I mean, how are we supposed to get richer and oppress the poor people without his green? Marches, activism, and protest block off the streets and prevent politicians to get to their meetings with crooks. It also causes the regular office worker to be late for work. And if Mark is late for work, how is he supposed to steal Deborah's boysenberry yogurt from the communal refrigerator? I mean, do you expect Mark to buy his own yogurt? Have you seen the prices of non-GMO yogurt these days? It is obscene. You protesters didn't consider yogurt when you made those signs and clever costumes to battle the oligarchy, did ya, huh? People don't think these protests against corruption, institutionalized racism, and equality apply to their everyday life, but they couldn't be more wrong. The media and the establishment have tainted the idea of protest. These hundreds and thousands of people have decided to stand for something and are fighting for your rights. What they call yelling is chanting, and what they call running around is a march. And if they can get their word across, they can probably drop the price of yogurt so that Mark can finally afford his own. That's hella beneficial to everyone. Yogurt, Greek or otherwise, is delicious. This past week was Democracy Spring. These guys are marching and rallying to end corruption of our political system and get money out of politics. Basically, the concept that bribery, when it comes to Congress, is totally legal. You can walk into Congress and put a $20 bill in a congressperson's pocket and pat them on the cheek and say, "Get it done, babe," and walk away, and they have to do whatever you want them to. You now own them. Well, I mean, not you. Corporations and billionaires own them, and by $20, I mean $20,000. This legal bribery has made slaves out of election officials, except they get paid. So it's slavery with a loophole, and if we know anything about corporations, they're experts at loopholes. 400 people were arrested in an act of civil disobedience at Democracy Spring rallies in DC. And that was just day one. By day two, they were out of jail space, so they had to detain them in a holding area on the side of Capitol. So these guys were being detained for nothing and get to watch corrupt politicians commit crimes and take bribes all day. And we all know that's where congresspeople like to meet to make their secret deals and talk about how to get that dead hooker out of their summer home. While these prisons were over capacity, real criminals get to run free because there's nowhere to put them. People are free to commit their arsons and robberies and dog molestations and get away scot-free because those dirty protesters are taking up jail cells. And to be fair, they're only dirty because the cops threw them in a mud puddle before handcuffing them. The media didn't even cover these stories. 12 seconds from MSNBC and 17 seconds from Fox News. So if there's an event this big going on and mainstream media can't cover it, why do we have them around? If mainstream media was around during the time of the Revolutionary War, it would have like a 15-minute coverage about how a blacksmith used his anvil to cook some bread and pound it flat so it made flat bread. Meanwhile, 10 feet away from them, the rebels are pushing the British forces back. But pay no attention to that. Look how flat this bread is! Who cares? There's literally dozens of nations that figured out how to make flatbread before this blacksmith did. People want real news of other people driving real change. And besides, flatbread is no yogurt. And even when mainstream media does cover protesters, they just portray these guys as violent and aggressive. If they knew how to do their jobs, they would have seen the songs they were singing before the tear gas was thrown by the cops, erupting into chaos. I guess if it's songs about giving power back to the people, they can't cover it. But if it is a teen sensation telling a rapper to go fuck himself, then we got 43 minutes of coverage right there. And so many retweets that it will make your head spin. Pay no mind to that city that's about to burn over racial injustice. Independent journalists and social media were the forces used to cover Democracy Spring. So I think it's time that we dissolve the watered-down version of reality TV that is mainstream media and use all of their salaries to fund the people reporting the real news. That way it gets more people motivated to find real news. Even if it's a social media video, it still gets the word out to the people. This way we'll get way more people involved in politics and be aware of how bought and corrupted the political system really is. Look, I know there's a lot of people that think protesting is tiresome and obnoxious. Plenty of Americans don't want to march and sing a movement's theme song because a new episode of House of Cards is up or Doritos is releasing a new flavor of chips. It's Greek yogurt, and to be honest, it's probably not going to be very good. Yogurt, as is a great product, so why fix something that's not broken? We should be focusing on fixing a problem that is broken, like a corrupt political system, and protesting is a way to get the people's voices heard. Protesting can get results because it's a mix of passionate words and actions. The media and the establishment can try to ignore it, but eventually those chants and songs are gonna get to you. They're pretty catchy. Our revolution doesn't need to be a violent one, where we don't shoot until we see the whites of their eyes, but rather one on a social platform. Whether it's thousands of people on the steps of Capitol Hill using jail space for justice, a hashtag trend, or just telling people at the grocery store about how they should overturn Citizens United or TPP for the sake of their yogurt. We can fight to end corruption and repair a broken system. There will be no hope when the corporation trying to buy Congress's vote starts singing those songs. That's it for your forkful of noodles for this week. If you keep watching, there's a little bit of footage at the end from the Democracy Spring and Democracy Awakening marches. And if you want to find out where I'm going to be performing live, you can visit ramennoodlescomedy.com. That's RAMAN noodlescomedy.com. Thanks for getting into it.
Money out, people in.